Hello, hopefully I am now finally live. Sorry for being late. My microphone decided it didn't want to work, even though during all of the testing part it worked fine, and then as soon as I was ready to go live it stopped working. So I am now here. Thank you everyone who is here, and we are going to be going through the Wild Beyond the Witchlight, which is the newest D&D book, which takes us to the Feywild, an area that hasn't really been explored much. There's a little area in the DM's Guild, not DM's Guild, that's a different thing, in the DM's Guide. Sorry, my brain is completely frazzled by trying to fix microphones, which I am not a microphone expert, so I had to do some very quick Googling. Perfect. Carl, let me know that you can hear me okay, which is good. Yeah, so we're going to be jumping into the Wild Beyond the Witchlight, which is the newest book, and we're just going to see what is inside. I haven't had a look at all. I have the contents page open in front of me, which I will quickly skip to so you can see it as well, and we'll just quickly get rid of my background. Perfect. So this is the contents page. And yeah, this is literally all I've seen so far. So I know there are some races, so we'll have a look at the races. I can also see that there are some backgrounds here, so we'll have a look through the backgrounds and see what they're all about. It looks like there's magic items. I don't know how many, but we will have a look at the magic item section. And then there's the creatures here as well, which we will have a look at. And yeah, we'll see what is going on in this book. First off, let's have a look at the cover art, because I do quite like this one. You can see it's all based around a carnival, and here is the carnival. I assume this is the owner of the carnival, and some creepy clown and some giant rat thing, whatever that is, with butterfly wings. Very Feywild. Oh, it's a displacer beast with an 8-year-old, so I thought that was a halfling or a gnome or something, but it's just an 8-year-old, which is why it looks so big. So first up, let's go straight to the background. So there is the Fey Lost. So you grew up in the Feywild after disappearing from your home plane. So this is someone who has maybe forcefully been brought into the Feywild and is trying to live their life. As it says there, perhaps you were kidnapped by an evil Fey but escaped their clutches. Whatever the manner of your disappearance, you gradually fell under the Feywild spell. So let's see what they get. So you get skill proficiencies, deception and survival, which are very nice for a lot of characters that like the whole social interaction of deception. And then a bit of survival as well, which is always good to have in your party. You get a musical instrument, which once again is very Feywildy, and you can get one of either Elvish, Gnomish, Goblin or Sylvan language. Sylvan's one which doesn't come up much, so that's quite nice that it offers you that. And then in your equipment you get a musical instrument, a set of traveller's codes, 3 trinkets which you can roll on the table, and a pouch of 8 gold. Okay, that's interesting. Usually you get 10 gold, so they've, for whatever reason, given you 8 gold. Maybe they just don't like the round numbers anymore. And then you get a Fey mark. You were transformed in some small way by your stay in the Feywild and gained a Fey mark determined by rolling on this table. So these are, I assume, going to be very Feywild. Your skin sparkles in moonlight. Your ears are covered with soft tufts of fur. So some little things that give you a bit of a Feywild look to your character, which is nice. And then you also get a Feywild visitor. Whenever you're sound asleep or in a deep trance during a long rest, a spirit of the Feywild might pay you a visit. So this is a nice little tool that the DM has here then. The DM can decide when or if this is going to happen. Conversations that occur contain a number of things, from messages and insights to nonsense and red herrings, at the DM's discretion. So yeah, that's quite nice. And then it does give you a little roll table down here. If you didn't want to decide, you could just roll and it picks what type of visitor you get. And then this is the feature, so Feywild Connection. Your mannerisms and knowledge of Fey customs are recognised by natives of the Feywild who see you as one of their own. Because of this, friendly Fey creatures are inclined to come to your aid if you are lost or need help in the Feywild. And then there's a nice little bit of art here with some wizard apprentice looking fellow and maybe a bard sat down here on a bedroll as well. Okay, so I like that they add more backgrounds to the game. I don't think you can ever really have enough backgrounds because you can either just decide to have it or pick another one and it doesn't really affect the rest of the game. The features that you get from backgrounds are very minor as well. There's none which are too crazy, so you know, in my opinion they can chuck as many as they like. Okay, and then this one, the Witchlight Hand, it looks like you're a carny. You have grown up in the carnival of Witchlight. Yeah, so let's see what they get. Performance and sleight of hand, which makes sense. Being a carny, you will have to do a lot of that. Disguise kit or a musical instrument. You get one language of your choice. You get a disguise kit or a musical instrument, a deck of cards, a carnival uniform, one trinket, and a 8 gold pouch. Carnival companion. Over the years, you've earned the friendship of another carnival fixture. Roll a d8 and consult this table. Work with your DM to flesh out the friendship. This companion hangs around you while you're in the carnival, but it won't voluntarily leave the carnival. Okay, so this is a very specific feature about this mini campaign. Or, well, I actually don't know how long this campaign is. It might be a full campaign. Where you get a little friend that will follow you about. So that's quite cool. And it also gives you some options here, one of which being an old blink dog, which is quite nice. A retired performer could be quite fun. Magical wisp of light. So yeah, and then the feature you get are the carnival fixture. So the Witchlight Carnival provides you with free, modest lodging and food. In addition, you may wander about the carnival and partake in its many wonders at no cost, provided you don't disrupt its shows or cause any problems. So this one is very specific to this campaign. You probably wouldn't pull it out and use it in any other of the campaigns, whereas the Fey Mark, the Fey Lost one, you could really use that anywhere. And yeah, maybe it will come into the story later on. Nice. So let's have a look at races next then. I know there are 2 races. Okay, so it gives a little bit of background here on human race or fantastical race. You can follow the additional rules. Okay, so if you go for a fantastical race, like a fairy or Harengon, is that how you say it? Then there are some additional rules. So let's take a look. So increase 1 score by 2 and increase a different by 1. Or increase 3 different scores by 1. Follow the rules regardless. Okay, so it gives you the option of where you want to put the ability scores rather than other races that just tell you you get 2 strength and 1 constitution. So that's interesting. So it's the exact same here as well. It just gives you the option of different languages rather than giving you them. And creature type. Most player characters are of human race. Here's a list of in alphabetical order. Okay. So you can also be a different creature type, which is something new, I believe, because most of them just come under the humanoid function. Even the half giants come under humanoid, which is interesting. A bit about lifespan and height and weight. Okay, so what does it give you then if it doesn't give you ability enhancements? So fairy, I'm not going to bother reading this. We all know what fairies are, and here's some nice art of some fairies. And then if we scroll down, so you are a Fey creature type. You're a small, 30 feet walking speed. You know Druidcraft. At 3rd level, you know Fairy Fire, and at 5th level, you know Enlarge and Reduce. Once you cast the trait, you can't cast it to a long rest. Okay, you can also cast either of these spells using spell slots. Okay, so there's some pretty nice spells. If you're going the druid route, you might have some of these, but if not, you get them, which is quite nice. And you get flight, so you get a flight speed equal to your walking speed. So flight is always nice to have. The other cloak have them, and because it says it's equal to your walking speed, if you take a class that increases its walking speed, like the monk or the barbarian, that also means you'll increase your fly speed, which is pretty nice. Very nice. Okay, nothing crazy there. In fact, it's extremely basic. Borderline boring, maybe. But the ability to play fairies actually in the game is quite cool. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that are excited to go out there and play as a fairy. But next we have the rabbit folk, the Herongon, I'm going to call them. I don't know if that's the correct way of saying it. So it does say it's a humanoid. So you can be medium or small, so it's up to you. You have a speed of 30 feet and you can add your proficiency bonus to initiative rolls. So there's not many abilities in the game that actually affect the initiative rolls. So that's quite cool that as a race you can put your proficiency bonus to your initiative rolls. You also have proficiency with a perception skill, which is a nice skill to have proficiency in. And you've got lucky footwork. When you fail a dexterity saving throw, you can use your reaction to roll a d4 and add it to the save, potentially turning the failure into a success. You can't use this reaction if you're prone or your speed is 0. So once again, quite nice. A d4 is obviously not much, but if it clutches a saving throw, then happy days. Everyone is going to be happy. It'll be a great moment at the table. And then we've got the rabbit hop. So as a bonus action, you can jump a number of feet equal to 5 times your proficiency bonus without provoking opportunity attacks. You can use this trait only if your speed is greater than 0. You can use it a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus and gain all uses. So you can basically use a bonus action to move relatively far and not provoke opportunity attacks. That's actually pretty nice. Both of those and the hair trigger, so all 3 of those are really nice skills actually. So yeah, very nice. Herongon, and then with the ability to choose which ability scores you increase. You can make some pretty nasty characters with that, especially I'm thinking rogue, because you get the bonus action to jump away and not provoke opportunity attacks, so you can get in there, stabby, jump out, and you get the precision bonus on your initiative rolls because the assassin rogue wants to go early in initiative. So yeah, pretty good. I like it. And then they've got the normal character traits area down here. So yeah, that's the background and the races. Nothing too crazy, but nice additions. Let's have a look at magic items. Let's quickly see how many of them there are. Quite a lot. It's quite a lot of them. Okay, well, let's try and get through all of them as much as we can. So we got a bobbing lily pad, which is very rare. Floats on water 10 foot diameter, has tendrils that propel it across land and across the water, but not underwater. It has a walking, flying and swimming speed of 20 feet, and it can hover. Lily pad can transport up to 300 pounds. Okay, so it's sort of like a flying carpet, but it's a lily pad. Nice. Not too bad. Once again, nothing too crazy. And let's see what the Chromatic Rose does. It comes in 5 colours. While Rose is held, you gain harmless visual effects as indicated in the table. You can gain resistance to damage type associated with the rose's colour. If you take more than 10 damage of this type, the rose disintegrates, and you take no damage instead. So it's like a one-use saviour kind of item. As an action, you can blow the petals from the rose to produce a 20-foot cone of acid, lightning, poison gas, fire, or cold, as dictated by the rose damage type. Each creature in the cone must do a Constitution saving throw or take damage. Using this destroys the rose. So it is a one-use thing, and it only does 3d10 damage, which isn't a crazy amount for a one-use thing, especially for rare. Yeah. See, that's the type of item that you could get and use over and over again. So the fact that it's a one-use rose is actually not too great. But I guess there's not actually many one-use items in the game. Most of the time it's either scrolls or potions, not items. So that's quite a good idea, quite good to put them in. Let's have a look at the Cloak of Many Fashions. While wearing this coat, you can use a bonus action to change style, colour, and apparent quality of the garment. The weight doesn't change regardless of appearance. The cloak can't be anything but a cloak. Okay, so a common magic item that doesn't really do much other than a bit of flavour. The Dread Helm is also just makes your eyes and glow red and hides the rest of the face. Once again, common, doesn't really actually do anything mechanical, but pretty cool. I like it. Dust of Corrosion. As an action, you can throw this dust into the air, filling a 10-foot cube that extends out from you. Surfaces and objects made of non-magical ferrous metal in the area instantly corrode and turn to dust, becoming useless. Any creature has to do a DC 13 Constitution saving throw or take necrotic damage. Found in a small packet, this dust is made. There's enough dust for one use. So another one use thing. I forgot about dust actually. They are usually one use. So you got the Chromatic Rose, which is one use, and the Dust of Corrosion, that is one use. Not too much craziness from the damage point of view, but I do like the idea of being able to corrode metal. Gives your players some cool options if they need to get through certain things like doors that have metal locks and whatnot. Next up, we have the Eldridge Staff, which is very rare. It's got a +1 bonus to attack and damage rolls. The staff has 10 charges and regains expended charges. Eldridge attack: when you hit with a melee attack with the staff, you expend 3 of its charges to do an extra 1d8 lightning damage, which isn't too shabby. And Eldridge Escape: if you take damage, you can use 3 of the staff's charges and your reaction to turn invisible and teleport yourself and any equipment you're carrying or wearing to 60 feet. You remain invisible to the start of your next turn. Once again, quite nice. I'm not sure if I would say that was very rare. It doesn't seem that powerful for a very rare item. It's only technically 1d8 per melee attack and a pretty basic teleport. So yeah, I'm not sure if I would call that very rare. I would say that's probably more likely to be rare in my opinion, but it's quite nice and very nice for a monk in particular, especially if it gets in a bit of trouble and is surrounded and needs to get out of there quick. Okay, we've got an artifact here, so quite a lot of text. So is this cauldron here? So I'm going to skip the flavor text and we're just going to go straight to the meat. So you have to do a DC 15 Constitution save when you attune to it. In this state, the creature speed is halved and the range and the vision is reduced by 30 feet. Disadvantage on ability checks, attack rolls and saving throw. The creature will reach the end of its natural lifespan in 3d8 days. Only a wish spell or divine intervention can reverse this effect. That is pretty nasty. Okay, so also, I missed a bit there. It says you have to succeed on a DC 15 Constitution saving throw or be aged. Yeah, so if you fail, you get all of that. It's got the usual random properties that artifacts have, which in this case is 1 minor detrimental and 1 minor beneficial. And then this is what the properties do. So if water is poured into it, it's turned into a hearty hot stew. That's pretty nice, nothing too crazy there. If wine is poured into it and stirred for 10 minutes, it transforms into a magical elixir. any creature that imbues the elixir gains 10 temporary hit points, so temporary hit points are pretty nice. Any of the elixir that isn't consumed vanishes. When the cauldron is filled with lots of water and mixed with wine, it can be used as a focus of a scrying spell, which is pretty nice. Okay, and then dripping the bristles of an ordinary broom into the cauldron transforms it into a broom of flying for 3 days. Okay, so there's some pretty nice things there. So it looks like there's some different versions. So that was the gold version we just looked at. Let's see what the iron version does. So you can use your action to scream into the empty cauldron and summon a swarm of bats. Nice. You can put a lot of blood in and it turns into a harmless black smoke that erupts. At the same time, all creatures within a certain radius fall unconscious for an hour, except those attuned to the... Okay, so there's no save. It just puts people unconscious if they are within a certain radius of the cauldron. The radius of the effect is 100 feet per gallon of blood used. Okay. That's pretty crazy. So there is no saving throw, nothing like that. Just you fall unconscious if you're close to this cauldron. Tying a dead frog or toad to the end of the ordinary branch and dipping it in the water-filled cauldron transforms the branch into a wand of polymorph. Pretty nice. And if you spend 1 minute touching the cauldron with a unicorn's horn while reciting the poem The Witch's Queen's Cauldron, all creatures within 1,000 feet of the cauldron, except those who are attuned to it, get frozen in time. Crazy. Destroying the or touching. Okay, pretty crazy stuff then. But it is an artifact after all. I like that it is given some options of how to make magical items. I feel like that's something that isn't really spoken about too much. So here are some ways of making magical items. Most of the time they just turn up in a shop somewhere and you buy them. You don't actually think about where they came from. And yeah, it also gives you some pretty cool story ideas here. Okay, reducing the cauldron to 0 hit points, shatters into 8 pieces. So you have to hit it with a flame tongue or frostbrand weapon. Interesting. Okay, so they're not really hard weapons to come by, so it's quite easy to destroy a cauldron. Well, I say easy, you need to obviously get one, which a normal commoner wouldn't have, but it's not too crazy. It's not like you need, the hand of Vecna or something. Okay, so if you destroy them, it also makes all hags unable to do the shared spell casting. Nice. Cool, so that's pretty cool. That's a nice artifact. I do like making artifacts, they're good fun. And they sort of can be game breaking a lot of the time, and some of this is some pretty cool stuff. Right, let's have a look at the instrument of scribing, which is common. So, magical object, the message camera 6 times long, if you oblige to scribe, so... Okay, so you can basically write on stuff that you can see within 30 feet of you. Nothing too crazy. Another common item here, while hiding the orb, you can use a action to determine which way is north. Okay, fair enough. Once again, nothing crazy, nothing too exciting. Okay, next, you can use this contraption to fly, provided your weight doesn't exceed that amount, 30 feet in accordance to the sphere. Okay, so it's just a flying thing. Once again, nothing we haven't seen before. There's flying boots already, there's flying lily pads we looked at earlier, so it's just another flying thing, which is fair enough. Okay, so we got Pipe of Smoke monsters. So if you take a puff, you can create a... Okay, so the smoke just turns into the form. The form doesn't actually do anything. So it's sort of like Gandalf puffing on a pipe. You can make some monsters, which is quite cool. Once again, not game breaking. Pixie Dust, the recipient gains the ability to fly. Okay, so yeah, you can chuck pixie dust on someone and they'll fly for a minute. yeah, pretty cool. Pixie Dust is obviously something that has turned up in other media, so it's cool to see it in D&D here. Pole of collapsing, so you get a 10-foot pole which collapses into a 1-foot long rod. The pole's weight doesn't change. Okay, so it's a common item. It just collapses a pole. Back in the old days of D&D, every party would take a 10-foot pole into the dungeon and hit the tiles in front of them, 10 foot away from them, to see if they were trapped. So I assume this is some sort of callback to that. That's in the adventure somewhere, but I haven't read the adventure yet, so I do not know about that. Potion of advantage. So when you drink it, you gain advantage on one ability check, attack roll, or saving throw of your choice within the next hour. Pretty cool, uncommon. Just get a bit of advantage. It's a nice way to give your players the choice of when they want advantage without having to be tied down to when they're given it by their class or whatever. So pretty cool. Scissors of Shadow Sniping. So that's an action that you can make a few snips of these, cause a shadow of a humanoid to detach from its source. If the creature is unwilling to give out shadow, has to do a DC 15 Charisma saving throw. The detached shadow is rooted to the spot where it was snipped, and he'll use a bonus action to cause it to behave in one of the following ways. So you can control its movement and get it to move 30 feet across solid or liquid in any direction, provided it remains within your sight. It's invisible in darkness, which makes sense. You can relinquish control of the shadow at any point. It becomes autonomous and behaves under the DM's wishes. It uses the shadow stat block. Okay, so the detached shadow... Oh, okay, so it's a monster. Interesting. Okay, so you can basically detach someone's shadow and then it becomes a shadow monster. Very creative. Could be quite fun to chuck in, and it's very Feywild, especially if you're going to be running a Feywild adventure. That seems pretty fun. Okay, so we got the Snicker Snack, which is a legendary greatsword. So +3 magic Vorpal sword, and the weapon ignores resistance to slashing damage. Okay. So when you roll 20 on attack roll, you cut off one of the creature's heads. The creature dies if it can't survive without a head. That is pretty powerful. A creature is immune to the effect if it's immune to slashing damage or it doesn't have or need a head. It has legendary actions, or the DM creature is too big for the head to cut off. Instead, it just takes 68 slashing damage from the hit. Okay, so one interesting thing from that. So it's obviously very powerful. If you roll a d20, you chop the head off. Powerful. But it does say here, if it has a legendary actions, it doesn't affect it, which is something I haven't seen before. So it's basically trying to circumvent them, well, not accidentally, but them cutting off the big bad's head by saying if they've got legendary actions, you can't do it. Which is interesting. Well tuned to the Snick Snack, you have precision with great swords. Okay, so you don't even need to be proficient with great swords. You can use your charisma modifier instead of your strength modifier as well. So Carl said Snicker Snack is from Alice in Wonderland. Let's do a quick little Google Snicker Snack. Possible sharpness. Coined by his poem Jabberwocky. I was hoping I didn't have to click into it. Yeah, I don't. Let's. Okay, that was useless. Thank you, website. It's definitely something to do with a Jabberwocky. Jabberwocky by Lewis Carroll. Okay, so it's something to do with this poem by Lewis Carroll. So I don't know if it's Alice in Wonderland, but it is something. And sentience. Snicker Snack is a sentient, chaotic good great sword with an intelligence Craves the destruction of evil dragons and urges you to seek out these creatures and slay them. Nice. So I do like playing sentient weapons. Can't say in Jabberwocky as mentioned, I'm sure. I'm pretty sure I've seen someone share on Twitter that Jabberwocky's been added in the creatures section that we'll get to in a bit as well. But I haven't had a look yet. So I like playing sentient weapons. It is good fun. Players enjoy it, especially if they've not seen a sentient weapon before. It's nice to bust it out and see their reaction. Right, let's continue. So steel is a longsword, so +2 to attack and damage rolls, and you can cast Revivify on it. So once again, pretty good sentient weapon again. So 2 sentient weapons in a row there. I wonder if they're related somehow in the story. A talking doll, which looks amazing. So it's a common item, so I assume it can just talk. Yeah, pretty much is a doll that can talk, and this one here looks creepy, and yeah, that's a solid no for me. So, Wands of Scowls, so it's got 3 charges, must succeed a DC 10 charisma save or be forced to scowl. A little bit weird. And then Wand of Smiles, which is the same but smiling, that is a callback to Critical Role. Has the Wand of Smiles. Matt Mercer introduced it and gave it to Jester quite early on, and yeah, there were some funny moments with it, so they've obviously canonised it by putting in the book, which is nice. And then last but not least is the Woodcutter's Axe, which has +1 to damage and attack rolls, and when you use it to make an attack against a plant or a wooden object, it does an additional 2d6 slashing damage. So nothing too crazy, nothing too inventive, but quite nice to have. So all in all, I would say there's nothing too crazy other than the artifact, so the cauldron, and then the big old great swords, the Snicker Snack. They're a bit crazy, but they should be. They're an artifact and legendary, so they should be a bit crazy. The art for this even makes it look mental with the little rose on the end as well. So yeah, I like it. Let's go to the creatures. So last off, this is the last bit I am gonna look at in this book. I will be reading the into the rest of the book, and maybe I'll do a video giving a review or a breakdown of it. But for this stream, we're just gonna look through these creatures briefly, and then we're gonna call it a night. These seem to have calls to stories. Woodcutter's Axe, Cauldron, and Snicker Snack. Yeah, as I said, I haven't actually read the whole book, but it is based on this adventure. And so maybe in this adventure there is stuff, there are callbacks to, Alice in Wonderland, and yeah, Woodcutter's Axe could be the Little Red Riding Hood and stuff like that. So maybe there are some nods to stuff in our culture. So throughout this little Feywild adventure, once I've read it, I will be able to let you know. But at the moment, I don't. I just thought I'd have a quick look in the contents in case there's something obvious. Like it says Alice in Wonderland, but it doesn't look like there is. There's lost children there, but I don't think that says much. Yeah, I have no idea, but I will have a look and see if there are some nods to stories from our world, like Little Red Riding Hood and Alice in Wonderland. Okay, so let's have a look through the creatures. And so this first one, the Boggle, isn't a new creature. It was in... Oh, what was it in? I think it was in Mordenkainen's Monster Guide book, so it's not a new one. I like this in the book. I can't remember it off the top of my head, so I don't know if they've changed it here. But yeah, it's got some pretty cool abilities here. I thought that was I thought that was duplicated there, but they are two different things. So yeah, I'm not going to go too much into this one because it is a new one. It isn't a new one, sorry. Okay, so we got the Brookanog, which is this little bad boy here. It's only a challenge rating 1/8, so not very powerful. Okay, so the Brookanog is accompanied by an insubstantial, invulnerable ball of light that contains its soul. So this ball of light here. Soul, 10 foot. Okay, so that's an interesting idea that their soul is outside of their body. They're a tunneler, so they can make good tunnels. They've got a pickaxe attack. They've got some spell casting, so none of which are combat based by the looks of it. They're all, yeah, animal friendship, very rare, nothing that's going to help too much. Time lapse. The Brookanog accelerates the passage of time around itself, enabling it to accomplish up to an hour's work within a matter of seconds. This work can't affect any creature other than the Brookanog, or any object being worn or carried by another creature. So that's interesting that they are bringing time play with it. So in case you didn't know, when you go to the Feywild traditionally, it messes around with time. So if you went to the Feywild for 1 day and then came back to the material plane, it might have actually been 2 months, or it could have been 1 second. So this is a Feywild creature that also plays with time, which is quite interesting. And as a bonus action, it can move its soul light. Cool. I like that. He looks pretty crazy as well. Very Feywild-esque. Okay, so we've got some Bullywogs here. So they are in the monster manual already, but it looks like there's some variations. So there's a Bullywog Knight, which is challenge rating 3. Let's have a quick look and see. So it's got a glaive that it does some damage with, and a Croak of Charming. So it can make a loud croak and target one creature, which must make a wisdom saving throw or be charmed. Okay, I have a feeling that this little story is going to be mental. Very Feywild. There's also a Bullywog Royal, which also is challenge rating 3, and has a croaked decree. So the Royal makes a loud pronouncement, and any ally gets advantage on the first attack roll on its next turn. Nice. So that's very different to the traditional Bullywogs from the monster manual, that they are some sort of chivalry knights. But yeah, it's different. It's interesting. They, the D&D team, the Wizard of the Coast team, are always creative with what they made. They made some pretty mental creatures in the Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. And talking about mental creatures, this is a mushroom. So, Campestries? I don't know how to say that. So that is just a mushroom. Sort of looks like Toad from Mario. It is a challenge rating 0, but it does have a headbutt that does 1 bludgeoning damage. It also has some spores that okay, so and they have no effect on these creatures, but you have to make a DC 10 wisdom saving throw, and on a failed save you're incapacitated for 1 minute. That's actually, you know, pretty nasty. These would be quite good little guys to put in a combat environment, but not really the focus. So while you're fighting something else, there's these little tiny plants that are moving 5 foot per turn, so they're only moving 1 space towards you and then exploding out some spores that might incapacitate you, which would be pretty nasty. And then there's also a swarm of them down here, which puts their challenge rating up to 1, and just looks like their headbutt actually does damage because there's a load of them headbutting you, and the radius is bigger. Interesting. So yeah, some more mushrooms, but some above ground mushrooms here rather than the myconids that are in the Underdark in the monster manual. So we got Darklings that have already been introduced in Volo's guide, I think. So they are just little fey creatures that are good at slashing things. I think, in fact, in Volo's Guide there is a Darkling and a Darkling Elder as well, if I remember rightly. So nothing new is actually added here. Just, I assume they're in the adventure somewhere, so they had to include them in the compendium, or they would force people to have to buy Volo's Guide to see these. And a giant dragonfly, which is actually really giant, it's large. Usually when something is giant, it only goes up one size, but I would say a normal dragonfly is tiny, so it's gone tiny, small, medium, large. And look at it, there's someone firing a bow. It's only a half challenge rating and it doesn't really do much. It does a little bit of an attack, but not too much. But yeah, you can now have a giant dragonfly mount. And it is a large beast, so if you are a ranger, you can get that as a companion, I believe. Or if you're a druid, you can turn it into a giant dragonfly, if you so wish. And a giant snail as well, another large beast. This one's 1/4. It's got slam and shell defense, and it's got salt osmosis. So contact with a pound or more of salt, it takes damage. Because we all know snails hate salt, so you can just chuck salt on it and it will slowly take necrotic damage until it dies. And yeah, nice little bit of art here to show how big a giant snail can be. Okay, so Helm Guns, we looked earlier at the race that you can be, but it looks like they've added some stats here if you just wanted to pull one out and use it in your game. So yeah, there's a sniper and a brigand. So they got pack tactics, they've got the standing leap, and yeah, club and sling, nothing too crazy in that one. Let's see what the sniper can do. It looks like it just gets a crossbow that it has some additional abilities for, so nothing crazy. But yeah, in case you've only just came to the stream and you didn't see earlier, you can now become one of the, or you can now make a character that is one of these, and they're like rabbit folk. Okay, so the Jabberwocky, or Jabberwock, sorry, I keep saying Jabberwocky, the Jabberwock. So let's see what it does. So it's challenge rating 13, so pretty big challenge rating. It's got confusing burble. So you roll and has to DC 18 charisma saving throw, which is pretty big. And then on a failed save, the creature can't take reactions and has to roll a d4 to determine what it does. It can either do nothing except use its movement to move in a random direction. The creature either makes one melee attack against a random creature it can see, or does nothing if no visible creature. So this, yeah, sort of similar to the confusion spell in a way. But yeah, I don't think any other creatures sort of go down the route of confusion, so that's interesting. It's got some legendary resistances. It's got regeneration, which is always hard to deal with for a player. Uncanny tracker, so it's good at tracking things. And then multi-attack, it's got 2 rend attacks, which are pretty nasty, plus 10 to hit and an average of 21 damage. It's got tail and fiery gaze, so this is very long, so it emits a 120 foot long, 5 foot wide line of fire from its eyes. Each creature in that line takes quite a lot of damage, so that's pretty nasty. Recharges on a 5 and 6, and then it's also got a legendary actions, which are just tail attack, rend attack and wing attack. And then here's a little bit of art for it. So yeah, pretty nasty. Also, just mentioned here, if a Jabberwocky is slain, another one appears 3d8 years later. So basically, you kill one, another one is turning up soon. Okay, so Core Red we've had before as well. I think they were in Volo's Guide, or maybe Mordenkainen's Guide. But yeah, we've definitely had these before, and basically they use their hair to do stuff. Like command hair. As you do. So we'll move on from that one because it's not a new one. Living doll, exactly what you need in your game is a living creepy little doll. So it's challenge rating 2. Okay, so it's got false appearance, so you don't know it's an animated doll. Regeneration as well, okay, which is interesting. And it's got grabby hands, so +2 to attack, and a bit of psychic damage, and a very easy to escape grapple check. It's only DC 6, which isn't too hard. And as a bonus action, it can cackle, so it can target 1 or 2 creatures within 30 feet that have to do DC 11 Wisdom saving throw. Succeeding automatically if it has an intelligence of 4 or lower, takes some psychic damage, and is incapacitated with laughter. At the end of its turn, the creature can repeat the saving throw. Okay, so it just makes people laugh and become incapacitated, which makes it even more creepy. No, thank you. Yeah, you could chuck a load of them at your party quite early on and make a proper creepy experience for them. Okay, so Quickling are another one that I think they were in Folos as well. So they're just really quick. They've got speed of 120 feet and do little stabby attacks that don't do much damage but have quite good to hit because they've got a +6 dex. And Redcaps are also in Volos as well. So not new. They're crazy little garden gnome looking things that hit you with a sickle and are mental. And this looks like this is the last creature, and it is Gleam and Glister, high elf twins. So rather than a creature, these are actual characters or actual people. They've got challenge rating 2. So it's quite interesting that they've put the stat block here together rather than 2 separate ones, one for Gleam and one for Glister. So they've got the Fate Ancestry that you can get from a race. They've got Regeneration. They've got a Twin Blonde. So while both are alive and on the same plane of existence, they are aware of each other's emotions, which is interesting. So they've got a Dagger Attack, a Moon Ray, which Gleam can do. Which is Wisdom saving throw or be transformed to a bat as if they were polymorphed. Okay, that's interesting. And then Sunray, which is to a Wisdom saving throw or be blinded. And Twin Sight. Okay, so that's just they can tell each other alive and see through each other. So I'm interested here that they didn't give any sort of rules on what happens when the hit points go down. Because the players could be like, I want to hit the one on the left or the one on the right, or I want to hit Gleam rather than Glister. So how do you deal with that? Do you just force them to hit both and do 33 hit points? Seems a little bit, it doesn't seem smooth. That I'd probably do it that they both have 16 hit points each, and so if they said they wanted to target one, they would target one to get the 16 hit points to 0, and then the other one would continue fighting and only be able to do their own abilities. Let's have a quick look up here to see. No. Okay. So I was just seeing if it had any rules up here, but it doesn't. It says there's some additional role-playing notes in Appendix D. What are these? I haven't even looked at it. Oh, role-playing cards. Oh, that's interesting. So it gives you little cards. So when a DM is role-playing characters, you have a little card that you can go to. That's a good idea. They haven't done that before in a book, I don't think. Okay, cool. So that's all the creatures anyway. Quite a lot of creatures that have been done before, Jabberwocky being the biggest creature that's been added. The rest of them are all a little bit fun, but yeah, nothing too exciting or nothing too crazy for me. I'm just quickly going to go and have a look at what the other appendixes are, because there's those role-playing cards which are quite cool. Factions, let's have a quick look at the factions then. So they've got the Hourglass Coven, which I'm guessing is a Hag's Coven. So it's, yeah, 3 Hags. Okay, and it gives you stat blocks here for the Hags. So let's have a look through the Hag stat blocks quick. Or well, this one at least, with a bit of crazy art here. Okay, so we've got a challenge rating 7, immune to any effect that would age her, creature within 10 feet of her uses at least 10 feet of movement to run in place. Counterclockwise is overcome with a fit of sneezing. What? So if a creature uses 10 feet of its movement to run in place counterclockwise, she will start sneezing and can't cast spells until the end of her next turn. That is crazy. That is the craziest thing. So I'm guessing in the adventure you can find out this information from someone and get a little bit of, know a bit of a weakness. Okay. Fair enough. So it's also got the bite attack, a withering ray, which is just a necrotic ray attack. Create lornings. So creates 1 or 2 quick. Okay, so just the quicklings that we just looked at. Can create 1 of them. And has some spell casting here as well. And bonus action swallow. So it can swallow a small or smaller creature that she is grappling. And then it has all of the rules here for a swallowed creature, like some of the other creatures in the game have. So the art is creepy as hell and pretty horrendous. But yeah, that is really interesting that they've put that detriment there. That if you just run around in place, it will cause her to sneeze. There you go. Okay, so they do have more hags as well. So they've got this one, which once again has some pretty creepy art. So let's see what special stuff she has here. So Eclipse Doom can be killed only if she's reduced to 0 hit points during a solar eclipse or while she is in 60 feet of a symbol representative of 1. Otherwise just disappears into inky smoke and reappears in 24 hours. In the same location, so you could technically trap her in. Okay, she's got a Puppeteer's Lash, which is just the basic attack by the looks of it. Okay, so if the target is larger or smaller, she can telekinetically move them by 10 feet. It's interesting, and then got some spellcasting here, so got polymorph, but nothing too crazy in the combat. And then the third hag, once again, some crazy art. In fact, does she have a key in her back? She does. She has a key in her back, so that's a bit crazy. And she's got Forgetfulness. So the first creature that sees after she finishes the long rest to her, she can't remember seeing the creature or perceive it using her true sight. Okay, so another detriment there, like the first one. Has some spells here, none of which are combat, really, except polymorph. And she's got claws, and then bonus action, she can shrink herself to a tiny size or return to her normal size. If she lacks the room to her normal size, she attains the maximum possible size. Anything she's carrying also goes tiny. As a tiny creature, she deals 1d4 poison damage when she hits a claw attack. She has advantage. Okay, so she can go tiny, so that's what this picture is. She's gone tiny on a little toy play horse. Fair enough. So they're the hags of the Hourglass Coven. Let's see. Okay, so they have got League of Maleficent, and they've got some stats here as well. So they got this old guy, Kelek, who he's got Braces of Defense and a Staff of Striking. So it's got a Staff of Striking information here. It's got a Sorcerer's Bolt, Fiery Explosion, which is a 20-foot radius fireball basically, but does a bit more damage, and it also has some spells, and then as a reaction has an arcane defense, so when it's hit by attack protects himself with an invisible area, so basically shield. So that is a spellcaster, challenge rating 5, not many hit points. Oh, next one, some pretty cool art there. So it has challenge rating 2, has an Eldridge Staff, which we looked at earlier, I believe. So it can do the attack from the Eldridge Staff here. Has some spell casting, none of which are overly combat, and then has a reaction that she can expend. Okay, so that's just the Eldridge Staff ability there, where she can go invisible and teleport away. And then there is the War Duke, which, look at him, he looks like it looks a bit like Pantheon from League of Legends, if any of you play League of Legends. Has a Dread Helm that we looked at earlier, and a Flame Tongue Longsword, so they can be used to destroy the cauldrons, we found out. So you could go find War Duke if you needed to destroy the cauldron. And all of his abilities are Flame Tongue, Dagger, Flaming Blade, and then the Second Wind, which is the same as the fighter ability. Zargash looks pretty nasty. Medium orc. So what does he get? He gets Potion of his invisibility he's carrying. So it's interesting that they're also adding in here what they're carrying. So if your players killed them, you know what would be on their belongings. They got Dagger and a Garrote, so that's if they're grappled, they do more damage. Assassin's Whims has a bonus action. It can do dash, disengage and hide like a rogue, and uncanny dodge just like a rogue as well. Okay, so last one of this group is Zargash, who is challenge rating 3, cling to life, so when he drops to 0 hit points he comes back with 1 hit point. Has a ring of feather falling, has a warhammer, death ray, some spell casting, and animate corpses. So it's interesting, got a warhammer and magic stuff. Is that the warhammer? That looks more like a staff to me. Can't actually see the warhammer on the art. It's got a little morning star there, little pick there. But yeah, they're all of the ones from the League of Maleficence. Let's go to Valor's Call. Elkhorn, so this little dwarf guy has a dagger, multi-attack, and a longsword of +1. Feint, so he has advantage on the next attack roll as a bonus action and deals extra damage. Also has second wind, just like the fighter. Mercion is a human cleric, so has multi-attack with a quarterstaff and a divine radiance. Has radiant fire as well, which is like a fireball, and also has some pretty handy spells. Has Cure Wounds with Revivify and Death Ward, which are all nice spells to have in a combat scenario. Maliva looks like a rogue, so it has Uncanny Dodge, Levitate by the Boots of Levitation here. Short sword even, and dagger here as well, which deal additional damage. So yeah, has sneak attack basically. So that is your standard rogue, but with Boots of Levitation, and also has +1 leather armor. Wingle Run is a wizard if I ever seen one. Has a Staff of Power, which is pretty nasty, because as with the Staff of Power, as you can see, you get a lot of spells. You get Lightning Bolt, get Wall of Force, Cone of Cold, Fireball, and he also has some of his own spells up here as well as a Freezing Ray down here. So yeah, he's pretty only challenge rating 5, but I would say if you don't kill him quick, he's going to be decimating the party. But he does only have 12 armor class and 42 hit points, so relatively easy to kill. Yeah, interesting. So I don't know anything about the story, but I assume each of these factions come into it and each of these people come into it. There's also Strongheart, the last one, so has Steel, which we looked at earlier. Has a Sentient Longsword, has Revivify, and has his own spells, and also has Protect Other, which looks like the protection fighting style. Okay, so I think they are actually all of the creatures in the book, because we went through all the creatures, we've gone through all the factions, we had a look at the role-playing cards. Let's have a look at what this is. Okay, so it looks like maybe it's something you can print out and give to your players for them to do a role-play scene, a stage scene I'm guessing. I haven't read the whole book yet, so not completely sure. But that's everything we're going to look at. I think pretty much everything we haven't looked at is all to do with the story. So I'm not going to sit here and read the whole story because that will probably be a very boring stream for you. So that is everything we're going to look at. I will be reading the rest of the story, and make sure to subscribe if you want to see any future content about the Wild Beyond the Witchlight. I might do a review. If not, I'll do a little overview at least and see if I think it's good or not. Go follow me on Twitter as well, because I'll be talking about it over there, or in the Discord channel, which are all down in the description below. Thank you for coming and watching this. If you made it the whole way, this will be uploaded to my YouTube channel in different sections, so if you missed different sections, you can go back and watch that as well. But that's pretty much everything, so I'm going to end the stream here. Thank you for coming along, and until next time, happy gaming.